Dear viewers, my name is Veronica Rose. You are most welcome to the Experts Corner. And today, I'm so privileged to host my namesake, and she is based in Nigeria. So she's going to let us know more about herself. Veronica, go ahead.
Hello, Veronica. Thank you for having me. It's always great when I meet another namesake of mine. So my name is Veronica Pana Igube. I'm a lawyer in Nigeria. I work as an associate counsel at Technology Advisors. Technology Advisors is an ICT law firm. Basically, we do regulatory advisory and compliance, and we also focus on legal development in the technology space. On the side, I run a blog, Thinking Out Loud with Veronica, where I air issues, legal issues, women's rights, mental health, and I also share opportunities for people to explore and expand their personal development.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's awesome. I'm still happy that I'm still hosting my namesake. Yeah. So our topic of discussion is on digital rights today, and digital rights are those rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create, and publish digital media. So this concept is particularly related to the protection and realization of existing rights, such as right to privacy, freedom of expression, and recently we've even seen countries that are regulating use of social media. We've also seen some countries that are shutting down the internet during the elections period. So on the same note, we would like to hear from you, Veronica. What are my rights? What are my digital rights? And I would like you to expound more on this. What would be my right, and how can I know that either the government is infringing on my rights or I'm going overboard? Veronica, go ahead and let us know more about this.
Okay, thank you. So I have this thing where it's a common place to say that digital rights are human rights, and these are basically translated into our rights online and in the digital space. So it's not restricted to just basically being online. So digital rights encompasses both using technology and when you're online. So these are your human rights, and as digital citizens, we are all digital citizens because we all use technology and we are always online. The world is changing, but the problem is we don't see these rights being reflected and being protected online because people have found a way to explore those loopholes of the lack of regulations, the lack of awareness of people of their rights online. So we should all be digital rights advocates. And in this place, there are certain rights that are towards. So it's just like the translation of your rights offline, and you're trying to ensure that these rights are protected by regulations, by policies, by laws, and they are brought to the online space and technology space. So I will talk about several rights. You have the right to privacy online. You have the right to access information. You have the right to access the internet, because everybody has the right to access the internet, but you can see that the levels of penetration, internet penetration in different regions, in different countries, that it varies. There are still some people who can access the internet, especially in rural areas. That's why you see governments and organizations working hard to ensure that the internet reach the people who don't have lacked internet. So you see where you have government rolling out programs to ensure that people have access to the internet, because it's surely a right that has translated to the online space. The right to privacy. Everybody has the right to privacy offline, and this right should also be translated online. You have the right to freedom of expression and freedom of association, freedom of free speech. As well as knowing that you can't, where your right starts, where your right ends, someone else's right begins. So we should understand that it's part of our responsibilities as digital citizens that regardless of the fact that we have the freedom of expression as well as the freedom expressing ourselves and freedom of speech, we should also respect the rights of others. But these rights shouldn't be hampered by government, and we should be free to express our opinions and our dissent with government. You also have the right to rights to be free from digital surveillance. We've seen where countries, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, are increasing their surveillance. And this is as a result of ensuring that this reduce the spread of COVID. But essentially, what are governments going to do after the pandemic? Are they going to reduce some of these surveillance systems or apps or technologies that are being used? You have also the right to participate in internet governance, which is very, very key. All sectors should be represented in internet governance. The voices of the young people, the voices of the old, the voices of women, especially because you have things like cybercrime, you have things like cyberbullying that affects the young people, the older people. You have, and people should be aware of these rights as well. And we need laws and regulations that protect people in this space. You have the internet protection rights. You have rights to be credited for work which you've done. And in the online space, there's a lot of piracy and infringement. And you have to have laws that ensure that people's content are protected online, because it's a right that people have. You have the right to be free from violence, discrimination. There has to be equality of access online. No one should be discriminated from accessing the internet. These are really key. You should be free from harassment. Nobody should be online, and because you're online, you're using that platform. There's a lot of cyberbullying going on, especially for the younger folks who use the internet, and you would see things like posting nude pictures. You have those things being affected, and we need laws that protect people against child pornography online. There are websites that host all those things, and they are a danger not only for children who would access it and not be able to know, but also to protect children from such. So all these laws should be, there are certain laws that should be, and as digital citizens, we have the responsibility not to take someone else's identity. So identity theft is something that comes up online, not to breach someone's privacy. We should respect each other as users. We shouldn't harass people, no discrimination. So these are just a few of the rights that exist in the space. And as a result, you can see the instances of violation of our digital rights. And that's why, as digital rights advocates, we are speaking up, because you see countries' internet shut down. A recent report stated that about 15 countries in this half of 2020 have experienced internet shutdown. Belarus is presently experiencing an internet shutdown as a result of their protest. And this shutdown always come up close to elections or where there's a protest. So everybody has the right to access the internet. So shutting down the internet is violating the rights. And there are several judgments where citizens have taken the countries to court. A recent one, a landmark one, was for the ECOWAS court gave for Togo. And the Togolese government was fined a certain amount for breaching the rights of their citizens to access the internet. That was a landmark decision that came up this year. So it's good that the courts are also validating these rights and ensuring that the rights of citizens are protected online. And the internet shutdown doesn't only affect, it also affects the economy of the citizens, because you can see countries like Ethiopia. There are certain reports that have been put out online for the amount of money being lost for the internet shutdown, because you see people have their businesses online, people use e-commerce, people sell their services, and when you shut down the internet and people can't access that affects people's profit, that affects people's living. So you're not restricting only shutting down the internet for your political reasons, you're also affecting your economy, and that's the rights. So there are a lot of governments working in to ensure that regulations are put to protect digital rights. But at the same time, you have governments overstepping where they are trying to regulate, but in the same way, as they regulate, they are also infringing certain rights. So I'll give an example. In Nigeria, we have the social media bill and we have the hate speech bill. Now, these bills were brought up several times, and the first time it came up and people, advocates raised the issue online, and people came out and protested and resisted the passage of the bill, and it was put out. But presently in the new assembly, the Ninth Assembly, it's been brought back, and people are still trying to advocate for it, because at the same time that this right is trying to protect fake news and hate speech online, which is amazing, to ensure that people don't disseminate fake information, at that time they are also putting out clauses or sections in the bills that will also hamper free speech and will be used by government to affect the free speech. And when you muzzle free speech, it's just like you're muzzling democracy, because free speech and dissent is one of the rights that have been given to us. So a lot of countries are trying in a way to put in their regulations. So in Nigeria, we had the Digital Rights and Freedom Bill, which unfortunately in 2019, after passed by both houses of the National Assembly, wasn't signed by the Nigerian president. So presently now, they have tried to rework on the bill, and the bill is also before the House again. And hopefully, if this bill is passed, it will be able to ensure the protection of digital rights for Nigerians online. But regardless, we have different regulations for different sectors that also regulate the space and provide some amount of protection for the citizens. Veronica, you gave an example of the social media tax in Uganda. So that is one of the responses of government to the issues between telecoms and over-the-top regulators. So over-the-top regulators are things like Facebook and WhatsApp, YouTube. Because they are over-the-top regulators, that means they don't really necessarily have to be registered in your country, or have an office in your country, but they are riding on the services provided by telecom operators. So sometimes several countries respond by regulating that space to protect their telecom operators. So that's why you have things like the social media bill and the regulation, the tax coming in to be able to protect the telecoms from losing money because of their infrastructure. But you also see it's also seen as a way of trying to regulate the internet by government, because certain people who can't afford to pay those taxes will now be like disadvantaged from accessing the internet. And we should also have the right to information, right to access things, because there are certain people who learn of the internet. People take online courses of the internet. People find government services are provided online. So if you restrict the number of people who can use those things, then also depriving them of the beautiful thing that is the internet.
Oh yeah, I completely agree with you, because we cannot imagine a life without the internet.
Without the internet and without technology as it is. Because as technology is advancing, the issues that our regulation, our laws and policies are not advancing as quickly to catch up with technology. So you have facial recognition being an issue, because our country is really regulating facial recognition, and facial recognition technology is advancing. And what issues are we talking about? We're talking about privacy issues. We're talking about who gets to say what in this space. And if our regulations and laws are lacking behind, and the technologies are developing every day, you know, like even the cell phones, every year you see a new iPhone is dropping, the technology is improving, but you see that our laws are not changing that fast, that we are still far behind, lacking behind, and we're still using some of our old laws and trying to see how those laws can fit into this environment, into of quickly adapting to our laws.
Yeah, I also believe legislators really have a lot of work to do. So thank you so much, Veronica, for joining me. Go ahead.
Okay, so yes, I wanted to state that as digital rights advocates, so it's very key for us to also raise awareness and educate people about digital rights. And thank you, Veronica, for this platform, for giving me this opportunity to be able to discuss with people what digital rights are, because we are digital citizens and we use these platforms all the time. But the thing is that we fail to understand that we are to contribute to the part of the system. So advocacy and awareness is one of the issues that we need to drive for digital rights advocacy, and we need to have conversations about putting in place laws, and also discuss with our legislators, because there's a key thing where the Democratic Republic of Congo, there's an NGO working in that space. I've forgotten the name, but I recently read their article that they published online. They have been key to advocating and using the legislature. So what they do is they try to conduct trainings for these legislatures, the lawmakers in their country. And not only that, they have been finding a way to include them in the global conferences that go on digital rights. So they took along with them when they were going for certain conferences on digital rights, and they also took along their lawmakers. So the lawmaker is in the space where he's having the conversation with experts in the area, and he's having this discourse with them. And it's easier for them to have a legislator who goes back into the house and is a champion of digital rights. It's easier when they hear a member who is also championing the cause, and not just advocates that are just, it's a different place because he can relate and he can translate it to them. So it's a good thing if we as digital rights advocates, which I feel everyone should be a digital rights advocate, can get their legislatures, talk to their lawmakers, and be able to explain to them and educate them and raise that awareness, because they are the lawmakers, they are the ones who pass the law. So it's also good for them to have an understanding of the effects of digital rights, how it's affecting, and the benefits of having legislature to protect digital rights. Because it doesn't also only protect, it also protects them and everyone, the good of everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Veronica. You've explained everything in depth, and to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. Hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on more of these upcoming sessions. Thank you for joining me, Veronica, today.
Thank you so much for having me, Veronica.
All right.